So today we talk about revenge porn, which is really the sharing of nude pictures, videos, recordings of a person without their consent. Yeah, and earlier I was Yvonne talked about the fact that she doesn't really like her skin out, and I fear really sending nudes because I never really get the right angle of anything, even selfies. I have to take like 20. That's why you see I have the same profile picture for a long time. So I have to take so many of them before I get the perfect angle.
That's how taking nudes works.
You get
You
so
take
maybe
many until you get the right
the
angle.
first. What if like a thing you want to?
Auntie, yeah, you take many until the angle comes out properly, then you delete the ones you don't want.
You see, so me, that's really my fear. But otherwise, I do not think it's something I would discourage someone from doing, especially if they can have the right angle, if they're sending it to someone they probably trust. And I see that Yvonne is side-eyeing me because...
Yvonne, what's the problem?
No, there's no problem.
Do you take nude pictures? Have
I
you sent
cannot.
nudes?
Why wouldn't you?
Okay, life is not safe. Like, the world is just not safe.
So are you going
if
to...
an iPhone can be hacked, we're just not safe.
Would you take nude pictures if you were assured of the safety of those pictures? For example, to
Why
your
not?
partner.
I think there's nothing wrong with that. I would want to venture out into that. But then, I would need a crazy amount of assurance that nothing will leak. Also with the way media works, the way technology has morphed into cookies. Okay, no, I don't understand those things. Things keeping, like where you think you've deleted your picture and then something has stored it, and then we keep hearing about hackers.
Me, I don't mind my nudes ever leaking. Yeah. I know there are people online who like to say, well, I like to post my body.
You mean me?
Me? Okay.
You mean I like
but
to tell
no,
you?
but like I'm really confident in how my body looks like. I guess also because it's what do they call it? It's what in our society is considered normal
and
and acceptable and good and stuff like that.
Yes.
So I have always been assured of it. So I've grown confident in how my body looks like. So I don't think that I would mind my nudes being out there. The only problem that I would have an issue with, and which is a real fear for me, is the adverse effects of having my nudes out there. Yeah, like knowing that your boss will not understand that this was taken in confidence. This is just a naked body, really, no big deal. But also the mental, how people literally break you apart. Yeah. We have seen it happen to celebrities for whom this has happened to. It's just like when I think about that, that entire stress, having to explain to people, people perceive you a certain way because, and you don't want to go through the explanation all over again. You've seen some celebrities have come out to talk about it, but they're tired of explaining it.
Yeah.
I know when we were putting this show together, I tried to reach out to some of them, and understandably, they don't want to talk about it anymore. Yeah. And that's what it does to you. I don't want my life to be defined by this. I am so many other things than just these nude pictures. So for me, that's my real fear. Like when someone texts me and tells me, send me a picture of yours, I'd be like, heart attack. Please, first leave me.
Where are you taking it?
First leave me. Yeah. So
I'm really concerned about the after effect of the picture of a person getting online, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or wherever, without this person's consent. You see, because we're going to agree this is a very gendered problem. And it's been further institutionalized in this country, for example, by the kind of policies we have in place that continue to victim blame. You see, the Anti-Pornography Act does not make anything easier. Having a committee set up to basically have someone come explain why I have a naked picture of myself online that I did not put is really going an extra mile to further police women, which is really basically violence against women. So it further explains and exposes how much this country really does not care about the safety of women like we claim to do, you see. But also, you talked about the adverse effects of leaking people's nudes. I do not think, I know what is happening online is a reflection of what is in society. And having in place women lose their jobs simply because someone leaks their nudes really goes to show the kind of society we live in. You see, so I shouldn't get naked because you're looked at as immoral because you have this picture of you. I don't know if people imagine that you always have clothes on.
But also, we never used to wear clothes.
You see?
Yeah, these things were brought by
the white man.
We never used to wear clothes. Women were not sexualized to the point that they are now. Yeah, being naked was normal, like seeing breasts and bums and what. It was normal.
Yeah.
So I don't know how it got to this point, like where it's now even institutional and people say
it's not our African culture for someone to take naked pictures and whatnot, which is really pretentious.
Might be pretentious. Okay, but because I think, thank God for the person who told us to cover up, because I don't think I'd want to move around.
It would be normal.
No, but also being looked at. But I think also going into the psychological trauma that these guys go through, that people go through, and then the fear that it leaves us with, makes me wonder about us who are being entertained by it.
We are
like how thoughtless are we, how numb or how detached are we, the users, the consumers, those who are really being entertained by these pictures, retweeting the jokes that come out, the memes that come out of it. I remember there was this one nude, I didn't see it, but all of a sudden I see everyone doing peace. And I was wondering what's going on until someone explained it to me. I was like, why are we making jokes about this poor woman? I think I saw some corporate companies
capitalizing on
kind
that.
of making jokes about it, and I'm like, wow, these guys want to associate with
this kind of thing.
So then is there protection for privacy? Is there any law against privacy? Are we ready for this digital age, or has it come like too fast for us here in Uganda or in Africa, because there's so much that we're not regulating?
I really don't think it has come too fast, because it's been a process. Because even right now, the disappropriate number of women and men online really explains it, or women who access internet. I just feel like it's an extension of how people who make these policies, people who make these regulations, dismiss women in, first of all, the processes of making them, and to the objective of making these policies and regulations, you see. For the longest time we've seen, a law will pass and you can tell this is a law that was drafted by a man who has not experienced what he's talking about, you see, including women at the end to review and then go through the process of chasing the review of these laws is a whole other expensive process.
Allow me to kind of disagree. Okay, not disagree, but I feel like yes, we need regulation. We heavily need regulation. But if we throw all the blame to the regulators, who I think are detached from the social media age. Look at
That's because there are no young people also.
Yeah, there are no young people. There's a former priest, a pastor who might be suspended. Who else is on that? A married woman who doesn't. Anyway, sorry, but it doesn't seem like they're very in touch with the social media age. So I can understand that they're clueless about how this is propagating, how the nudes come, how you get them, and everyone is going to send. They assume that that the ladies are the ones who send for what? For public recognition, to get relevant. Because it seems at some point they could have been that situation, that someone just wanted to get relevant again because she was not being
really with all the like tearing
I don't know, but there were
what
certain assumptions like that. But then I feel like we should also really because who are these consumers? Are they only men? They're women as well. And guess what? Even us women, I don't know if you guys shared nudes, if you sent them to someone, if you laughed about them. So it's like, we are also shooting ourselves.
We're part of the problem.
Yeah, we are.
Patriarchy has no gender,
yeah.
you people. The patriarchy has no gender. So I agree. I agree with you. I'm not throwing all the blame to the regulators, but they have a role to play. For someone to get into a position of power, there is much that is expected from you. You should have the expertise. That's why the minister of ICT
I wish we'd also shoot at us.
You get. So of course the problem. Everyone is to blame. The consumer, first of all, the person who retweets, the company that has a joke, a Friday joke for their data.
There's actually a media personality who literally went out on Twitter to troll someone.
This recent,
the recent case.
Yeah. Like, and I'm thinking,
sorry, to troll someone?
Yeah, a media personality.
Yeah, the recent nude pictures that people have been sharing all over the place. So a media personality in one of these radio stations
posted
uptown,
a picture of his other. Let's do a challenge.
This is the pause. You know how you do like the Yvonne challenge, you get. So what I'm saying is that one, why I'm blaming the regulators, because they're in a position where they should have the knowledge and expertise to regulate these things and the resources. So if you're using the resources to have a meeting, because I know people get paid to sit in these committees and do this work, and you're sitting to talk about why a woman sent her nude picture to her boyfriend who has now broken up with her and is sending it out, and you don't understand the consequences of that, then that maybe says you should step aside and let other people sit into that position, people who are in touch with that. But I also agree with you, the consumers, you know, I keep on saying that, let me tell you, a lot of men hate women and they do not know, or they pretend not to know. Because I do not understand how you continue sharing the picture, a naked picture of another person. Well, you know, you get, no, it's really like hate.
It's like
because if you do not hate me, then why would you ask me why I was what was I wearing when I got raped? Or it's not really rape. It's just a picture, you people. It's not an endorsement, really. It's just a retweet. Come on. A retweet,
because you don't think of how it's hurting the other person. Because for you, you're just sharing. You don't think of how it's hurting the other person. You don't think of all those effects that we are talking about. People losing their jobs, being perceived a certain way because, I mean, you're walking on the street minding your own business, and people are just mentally undressing you, or want to even, like, okay, since you wanted to be naked, like trying to undress you and things like that. No one thinks about that while they're sharing those pictures.
Yeah, so you're basically a source of entertainment to someone without you giving them consent to your privacy. Yeah. So I really think, one, we need to check ourselves with how we use social media, with how we treat women. Two, the regulators too need to do a better job. Let me tell you, things can happen in this country if really the regulators are very deliberate about protecting women without pretending to really care about women. Because you can't pretend to care about women. You have women's day and we care about our women. We're in the kitchen.
One day in the year.
You get one day in the year. But then you are the same person financing the process of violating a woman and victim blaming her for someone sharing her nude. You get, and it doesn't matter whether I'm sharing it with you or selling it to you. If I'm selling it to you and the agreement is that you do not share it with other people, then you're violating my privacy. Yeah. You get.
A question. Let me just be let me be a devil's advocate for a bit. Is it safe to assume? No. Is it safe to assume? Because I was just thinking about this. If I invite you, because the nudes always look like someone else has taken them. It doesn't look like you took them yourself. So if I invite you to take my nudes, okay, if I allow you to take pictures of me, haven't I in a way agreed? Haven't I given them to you?
No.
Don't you own the pictures? Wait. Don't you own the pictures, the person who took them? Don't you now own those pictures? And then the whole thing of consensual pornography, hasn't it become consensual that he can then or she can distribute or share with a friend? And look at my password. Hey, look at my friend.
Look at Chikemi.
Look at how. Look at my friend who then might also share because they have. So it's a thing of I opened the door and I let the person in.
No, so the thing is I let you in my space. Yeah. If I don't think it would make. Like, I don't think that you would feel nice for me to come into your space. You know, I've invited you and then you violate that. I was earlier saying it's like having sex. Yeah? Sex is hard in the confidence or in the privacy of two people or three or whatever. But it's consensual. Yeah? So for you to go out and tell people, oh, this guy,
her bum has been
posed.
Isn't that an assumed
like it's just
code of
stomach
privacy?
order.
Because we have not talked about this, and isn't it safe to also assume that because, and it also brings the question of who owns the picture.
So now we start signing papers of like now.
I think Yvonne, let's not really pretend not to understand consent. I think if, for example, I don't know, maybe I know a lot of people do this. Sometimes, most of the time, I'll ask my friends before I post a certain picture, especially a picture I took at a private party. You get?
How many people do that?
You get? Yeah, I'm coming. I'm coming to that. Or sometimes, because of my relationship with you, I'll know that Yvonne does not like maybe me taking a picture of her if her dress is just above the knees. And you've expressed that discomfort, yeah? So most of the times we know what to do, quite honestly. When I invite you to take nice pictures, for example, I take poor pictures and every one of my friends knows there. After a night out, if I send you pictures, they'll be blurry. So never ask me to take pictures. So even if I wanted to take nude pictures of myself, I have a friend, my friend Joy, takes very beautiful pictures from all angles. So maybe if I invite her in my space to take my nude pictures, I think if I expressly want her to share those pictures with someone, I'll say that, Yvonne. I'll say, hey, share with so and so. I want them to see this package. I think it's really expressed. I don't think there is any woman, or I don't think there are very many women out there who invite their friends to take pictures, and suddenly on a Friday, Patra, see Yvonne. I send the naked picture of Yvonne to Patra. I really think people know what they're doing.
We've seen the score. And you give someone your phone, and they start looking through your gallery. And oh, lo and behold, Patra.
You see?
And then someone else could take a photo of that. But I'm just saying that the consent in you allowing, because we live in a crooked world, in you allowing someone to take a picture of you, I think someone could spin it and say,
no, that they accept it. There's really no way of spinning it, especially if we are talking nude pictures. Yeah. There are people who, even weddings, they will, like couples will tell you, please do not share our pictures. Yeah. Like if someone did not want you to, if they've invited you to take pictures of themselves and they feel a certain way about it, like in the way that we have been talking about our fears and whatnot, knowing the repercussions of that, I think that people would be able, or they do express and know that you shouldn't be spreading them or sharing them.
Yeah, so
I'd really like to ask a lawyer or someone who is extensively. We
respect you.
Forgive me, this.
We respect you.
And they told us these things at law school. I remember a lecturer used to crack a joke. But you people, when you're at campus, throw your books around even if you're not reading. Because later in life, you'll be seated having a drink with your friends and they'll say, man, that friend of yours, I need a lawyer. And you're the lawyer they're asking for a reference too. But yeah, let's really hear from someone who has more experience, especially because we talked about regulators.
Yes.
And how this thing works. How can regulators really help us curb the problem as we are also working with people's perception, but also how we use the internet and protection of women.
I'm personally interested in hearing about the sexual offences bill because I know it was tabled in Parliament I think in 2016. I think in 2016, and it was thrown out for different reasons. But for me, it would be interesting to see if revenge porn can actually be included.
Yeah, since it's really
as a form of sexual violence. And of course the cyber laws and all that. That's.
I'm interested in copyright.
Copywriting, yes.
No, and
we're going to put people's names on the nudes.
And then what happens to third-party distributors?
Yeah.
And then the ones before. How does that play out if we are to actually go and criminalize revenge porn? Then who gets punished?
And how?
Yeah.
Yes.
We shot this episode of Black No Sugar at CASA de Roy, the first statistic and champagne bar in Uganda, located on plot 110, 7th Street, Industrial Area, Kampala.
So Mercy, it's good to have you back on the show. It's been a while.
So happy to be back.
You're not having wine today?
I would
you know,
like
you
to have
started
wine
this
the
thing,
weather.
you started this thing of us having wine. It wasn't a thing. Yeah.
Yes.
But then we're like, we could do this.
I actually miss wine on the table. It's just the weather.
Oh, sorry. I know. I get it. I was prepared.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so today we're talking earlier on segment 1. We're talking about revenge porn and, you know, how our perceptions around it, why we think it should be included as a sexual offense, or as a form of sexual violence, because it isn't. I'm guessing because it only affects a certain group of people, and that's why maybe we don't feel like, a lot of people don't feel like it's even a conversation we should be having. Most people would say, just don't take pictures, yeah? But the truth is, we know that people take their pictures for different reasons, and rightfully so they should. It's their thing. But I wanted to know, there's so many questions that we have around that, especially around the cyber law, because these pictures are usually distributed online before they even make it to mainstream media channels. Then, of course, there is the Anti-Pornography Act and the Sexual Offences Bill, which is not yet in law, I think. But how? So, if it were to be included, for example, as a sexual offense, what would there be like bloodlines between it, like with the cyber law and the anti-pornography law? What do they say about sexual offenses like that?
Yeah. I think I'll just pick it up from what you said about this being gender-based violence. It actually, in my opinion, is, because if you look at the way revenge pornography is structured and how it's interpreted, how it manifests itself, there are very many gender biases with the entire process, from who is targeted with the pictures to how it is distributed to how the court of public opinion talks about it. And also, if you look at the reasons behind most of these cases, at least I've been privileged to speak to a couple of people that have been victims of this, and you realize that most of these pictures are taken in the comfort of, you know, a relationship, and the people that give these pictures out do it in trust of the other person, because usually they're intimate partners, and we know a thing about intimate partner violence. So most times the people that leak out these pictures do so because they either want the victim to stay in an abusive relationship, or it is revenge because of something they did, or they wouldn't want them to expose crime. For example, one of the cases with one of the celebrities, the perpetrator actually had borrowed a lot of money and was doing illegal things in the country. And he knew that this person knew about his deals and could easily expose them in the wake of, you know, the hurdles in their relationship. So what he did to do that is to
keep her silent.
Yeah, to assassinate her character. So if you look at again how this plays, it justifies the fact that it is gender-based violence. And actually in most of the more progressive states, it's considered as a form of gender-based violence. So in Uganda, in terms of a legal framework, I must say the legal framework is not totally blind to issues like this. There is very many provisions in different pieces of legislation that actually provide for protection for women, starting with our constitution, really, Article 33, which is, you know, something that we thought was really a milestone for women in terms of protection, dignity of women, equality, and the state protecting women. And that protection extends to everything. So given that the Constitution is the mother law, those are articles that are interpreted to mean women must be protected from things like that. If you look at the history and how these things manifest, that is one of those. Then the Penal Code Act, which is one of our oldest laws, in Section 148, also talks about supply of material that they consider indecency. And also because most of our laws, being colonial laws, issues of decency are always, you know, and morality and things like that are the basis of our laws, you know. So because of morality issues, the law itself criminalizes indecent acts, whether done in private or in public and things like that.
What does it define as indecent?
Of course, they don't really give a very detailed definition of indecency, but
acts of immorality listed in that section have to do with pornographic material. Okay. So they don't, it's not definitive, like to say this act and that act. But if it's interpreted broadly, then they can categorize those sexual images and things as part of indecent acts. And then apart from the Penal Code Act, of course, now the anti-pornography law, which is, I think, the most recent. And both in its definition, in Section 2 and Section 13 as well, when it goes to talk about the offense itself, it describes what it is: explicit sexual material that is, put out there for sexual pleasure and things like that, where now the pictures, the nude pictures and videos actually fall. However, in doing so, in describing this within the law, when you look at the interpretation, it targets the victim. It's not really about how did these things make their way into the public domain. It's more about your pictures leaked. That is you, that is Patra. And that is it. So Patra must be punished because you're the subject of that. But again, it goes to show that even as we advance in terms of technology and the internet space, our regulatory system needs to also catch up. And we need to make laws that respond to the current trends of cyber violence. And people, if you look at gender-based violence in Uganda, the rates are high. So what's happening online is just a continuation, and new ways of advancing what is already happening offline. We already know there are times when men undress women. Some men go, when they fight with their women, they undress them and pull them. Or if a man, for example, suspects you're having a relationship, they'll want to shame you publicly. And the public will judge you. They'll not judge the man. So at the end of the day, what you see as cybercrime is just that continuation. And that being the case, our laws do not respond the same way to women as they do to men, which then is discriminatory. And as a country that signed the CEDAW, which is, the Convention of Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, all forms of discrimination against women, we have not eliminated those forms because the law acts disappropriately. In all these cases I have seen, they've always summoned the women, and they've not taken any steps to find the men. And I will just say this without any fear of being, maybe taken as authority on this. One of the cases, the most recent, I follow this celebrity online, and she went offline for probably a month. And then she came back on her birthday, and then you could see activity on her timeline had reduced. And then before I knew it, the nudes made their way. And now that means there is a series of negotiations that go on before these nudes find their way. Somebody is either asking for money or sexual favors or asking you to conceal information. So they hold you at a ransom, which is a crime in our laws already, because you're manipulating somebody, you're extorting money out of them. There's so much that if our regulators wanted to prosecute, there's so much to be prosecuted, even in the absence of a law on revenge pornography. Now, what does that say? That means that there's more to the pictures we see than meets the eye. So that is the more reason for our regulators to properly reflect on the reality of revenge porn and start, first of all, by bringing the perpetrators to book. Because that in itself will be deterrent for people to even share. There are countries that are advanced that regulate their cyberspace, meaning there is no way you can share certain types of material online. The cyberspace is in itself regulated. That's why sometimes even on Facebook, when you want to put out something and you want to play somebody's music in the background, they will disable it. They will say, no, this person has rights. So technology can. Even WhatsApp can, because WhatsApp, the regulators of WhatsApp and Facebook are the same people. So there are opportunities for our country to do that, but they're reluctant to do so. And instead, they're double victimizing the people that are affected by revenge pornography. And unfortunately, a court of public opinion will always lean more towards the woman and say, why did you take these pictures? Why did you put them out there? But first of all, at the moment at which you were taking these pictures, you didn't mean them to be for public domain. So our anti-pornography committee or the regulators within that ministry need to think about what is it they're regulating. And for me, it's just a presentation of the law policing women and their sexuality and everything about women. It's just one of those instances. Unfortunately, it's them perpetrating this further. Because when people see that no action has been taken, they will continue to do so. They will start using it as a weapon. For example, I know a case where this man planted a camera secretly in his house, and this girl was in a relationship with him, and so he recorded everything. He only had to crop and send out the picture, the video to her employer. You know, she didn't know. So even if you didn't want to take a picture, I can put a camera in my house and you do not know.
Is that how, like, I've seen some photos make their way to, like, red paper, for example?
Exactly.
And you can tell that these people are, like, in a private space,
Yes.
like bedrooms or hotels.
Yes.
I've recently heard that hotels have cameras in their rooms.
Yes.
Like, I've been in hotels, but I don't see them. So for me,
they're
that puts me,
cameras,
like, that scares me. Yeah. Even if I'm not doing anything, it scares me that, you know, I'm in a place where I think that I'm safe, but I don't know what people are doing with whatever it is they are seeing, or, you know, my data or whatnot, and like, is there a way to control that?
Yes, because in most of the advanced states, people sign agreements, like confidentiality agreements, before they come in. So the person that, for example, regulates the cameras, there's somebody in the control room that has to monitor what happens at the hotel. And even if court, for example, wanted footage for a case, there has to be a formal application that is made by the lawyers to the court. There's a whole process for you to even get that footage.
But is it legal to have those cameras in the rooms? Because you can have them, like, in the corridors or in the public spaces where people pass. But
it is looking at it twofold, in terms of crime, in terms of safety of your guests. Because, you know, with the way we are, for example, now with the security issues, we've had some of the international guests in the country getting killed in the hotel room. So there's a crime element to it, apart from just people coming into hotels for their private things. So if something, for example, happened and they just found somebody dead, those footages would be what would help to get into what could have killed them. Did they commit suicide, or was it something else? Which is okay. But then the duty has to be on the regulator to make sure, for example, in a hotel, somebody may be working in the control room and then one day they choose to quit. Remember, these people have had access to all this information. So if they choose to use it in a certain way to make money, then it is very easy to trace, because the hotel knows who exactly was employed. And if they signed an agreement, this person has to pay heavily for that. And so that, if you ask yourself, how many hotels do that, for example? What standards have they put in place to ensure privacy of everybody that comes into their hotel? The staff that regulate things, the staff that walk in and out of hotels. I know in some countries, gossip sites pay heavily for footage of, say, celebrities in their private space.
When you say gossip sites pay heavily, I feel like, for example, mainstream, red paper is like one of the main, it's in the mainstream space,
Yes.
But they've gotten away for such a long time.
Exactly.
With, you know,
uncomfortable.
Like posting pictures of, I know, there's nudes and whatnot and things like that, but even those pictures you are talking about of I'm seated a certain way, and someone will zoom like a picture, like between your like how do they keep getting away with that? Like, I've heard someone say, red paper is not a newspaper, it's a tabloid, and I don't understand how that works. Like, what are the rules around newspapers and tabloids?
I think they have standards within which they operate, and those standards apply all across, even if you're a tabloid or you're just the mainstream publishing houses. But having actually a particular law on, for example, revenge pornography and all of this has to fall within the confines of these actions. If we had a law, for example, on revenge porn, I would expect it covers, the publishing houses. What are them furthering this, both online and offline? So that means the publishing houses and also, those sites which are online, but also distribution by us, especially as citizens who keep now parading these pictures and sending them all over the place. And it has to be a breakdown of the source, and then the distribution channels, and then the publishers as well. That would be comprehensive enough to cover everybody that is part. Because, for example, laws like trafficking, they trace the crime from the onset. So anybody that enables it, anybody that is silent about it, becomes part of the problem. So even the same is for the law that regulates some of the sexual offences or things that disappropriately affect women, whereby you keeping quiet is enabling the act. So we need to have a comprehensive law that deals with a chain of things involved in revenge pornography, right from the source.
You've spoken about the law not being very elaborate, the offences that it covers. So my question is, say my nudes have come out, or I think my nudes might come out because my phone was stolen, or my phone or my computer has been hacked. What should I do?
I think, like I explained, most times before these nudes actually come out, these people actually know who leaks their nudes, at least for the cases that I've seen. They know who it is. And that being the case, immediately you should report, even before the nudes come out. When somebody is threatening to extort money from you, blackmail you, and use all sorts of threats and avenues to get you to do what they want in fear of you allowing your nudes to come out, you should report to police before. It's good to be proactive. Most times I feel the victims shy away because we also
they know that the police will just make it more difficult.
Exactly. And that is also twofold. Every time I actually think about regulating this particular thing, I also reflect about already there's the court of public opinion, and then you have to go through
the entire
process.
Did you take the pictures? Show us the pictures.
And it really goes down to patriarchy, I must say, and the understanding and perceptions that people have. The same perceptions an ordinary person has is what a law enforcement officer has, is what a judicial officer has. Some of us that have interacted with the law quite often, you realize that some of the decisions that are made in cases affecting women are just somebody's perception that they've been raised with. The patriarchy is deeply rooted in them. A judicial officer, for example, that appreciates issues of gender, that knows about equality and things like that, has a different way they will handle a case. They will look at all elements of the case, and their judgment will be based on everything, including, gender, including the law, including social practices. So it's always very extensive. But that is different from somebody that doesn't have an appreciation of that. They will make a decision with the same perception that, why did you take the pictures? So you will not expect a police officer to jump at that fact. And that is where the committee becomes very useful. What is the role of the committee? Because I don't see access to justice in any of this. That should be their role. Once somebody files a complaint, and in fact, now in police, we have the sexual offences directorate, I think. It's now a directorate. That should be the directorate that a woman reports to. And there must be people trained in these issues. For example, if police has to record such a case, what are the elements? What are they going to charge this person with? Which laws? When I was speaking, I cited the Constitution, I cited the Penal Code Act, the Anti-Pornography Act. I know that earlier when you were speaking, you spoke about copyright, the copyright law. That would be, by the way, one option. But, to have a copyright, you must register and all of that. But most times the way revenge porn plays, it is an aftermath. I don't think these women can want to go and copyright their nudes now that it has happened, So it's usually copyrights work better when you have already registered it, and it's very easy for you to now enforce your own rights. But before you do that, it becomes a little difficult. But there's an allowance within that law to do that. So all these pieces of legislation can actually be manipulated to protect the victim. But our officers just need to understand what these laws are, what the ingredients of this offense are, and what actions they should take. And the law is extensive. It provides for punishments, and the punishments look deterrent because there's imprisonment. I see the...
Has anyone been imprisoned?
No.
Like any of these ladies they go after?
No.
Been investigated?
No. Exactly, investigation. Because by the time you get to prison, there must have been a whole process of investigation, trial, and then eventually the judgment. Yeah, they are usually charged, and then the charges, I think, are dropped or just die a natural death. You know, police acts out of pressure. They're reactionary, so they will react after something has already gone, and then nobody's going to actually follow up on this. So you don't know exactly where these cases actually end. But I think it's something that we need to take seriously, because people who use, for example, forced prostitution as a form of abuse online, sex trafficking, people that do revenge, and all of these sexual violence, take advantage of the cyberspace to do this. So that being the case, we need to be serious about regulating our cyberspace. If the government can move to protect the cyberspace from political issues, then they can do the same for crimes such as this. And if they're really serious about, decency and morality, then they should regulate the space to curb that. Because the issue of consent is what differentiates me taking my pictures and them finding their way to the public domain. My taking them, I did not consent to them being in the public domain. I did not consent to being judged harshly and all of these things that people are saying. I saw on Twitter there's a team of people that started a hashtag to stand with victims, and then one of the male influencers on social media went all blown and said, that is foolishness, I can never support, this is being foolish. Why did a girl take, these are prostitutes, and used all of, and this is a person who has a very huge following on social media, and he has a daughter. And I thought to myself, like really, like you should be using your space to actually now pass this message for protection, because somebody can Photoshop me. People are very good at Photoshop now. So if they Photoshopped, say, the Minister of Ethics, who is going to try him? So this is in the best interest of everybody. This is in the best interest of everybody, including themselves, because people can abuse technology to reinforce some of these things we're running away from. So I could have my political opponent photoshopped and I put it online, and most people cannot tell between a Photoshop picture and an actual picture. So
nor do they want to. So they will just keep sharing. Actually, on one of my class pages, when one of the nudes leaked, I said, you guys don't share this, because who knows, it is actually a Photoshopped picture. And then they said, no, then they sent others in different angles. And I thought, oh my God, where do people keep these pictures? That goes to show that people don't even want to hear about the possibility of Photoshop.
Some people have entire Google Drives full of people's images just waiting to leak them.
And the flip side of that is it reinforces violence against women. One of the musicians whose nudes leaked said one time she was on stage and a man literally undressed her, because now they've seen your nudes, they've seen a video of you. The moment they find you, they'll just want to jump on you. Now, if you look at the recent case, this girl is not safe. She needs to be protected, because just beyond people getting fascinated about her, somebody is actually thinking, I could pay tons of money just to sleep with her. And I can say this without fear that in one of the interviews I watched, the lady was saying that after that, the amount of attention she got from men who were asking for sexual favors grew, both internationally and locally. And she kept having to say, I am not a prostitute. I am not. And they were like, I can pay you any money to sleep with you. Now, such a person can just rape you if they find you. So that is the flip side of all of this, because you're just reinforcing violence against women. And you're also not protecting the women in such situations. So I think our regulators need to seriously have a conversation about this and actually work on it. And then people lose employment.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, I really wanted to ask about that, because Patra mentioned that for some of the people she's worked with who've been unfortunate to experience this, they immediately got fired.
They did.
I'm very glad that the recent situation hasn't resulted like that.
Yeah.
It's not that we know.
Yeah.
But shouldn't there be a way that we are protected?
Yes. Yes,
Shouldn't
absolutely.
it be innocent until proven guilty?
Exactly. And that shouldn't also be a reason to be fired, because that has nothing to do with my abilities to be an anchor or a musician.
So they talk about the company brand and what.
Exactly, but you
what
cannot.
protection can we have in the law?
I remember one of the local TV stations, the very first cases that came out when the musicians' nudes leaked. Immediately, somebody leaked an anchor in one of the local TV stations, and we had to write an intention to sue the station for loss of employment, because you don't have sufficient ground to fire this person. If you look at the employment contracts, there's nowhere they have enlisted that as one of the grounds of protecting their brand and essentially losing your employment. So we had to write to the company, and then they didn't fire her because of that, because they knew us going fully blown to file a case on behalf of this woman would result into even more loss for them. Yeah. And then in this era where we're promoting equality, where we're empowering women, a company that stands with such a person and makes them not to lose their employment should be one of the ways we deal with this problem, because you're not giving the people doing
you're not giving them the power.
The power, exactly. And like I said, it could happen to anybody. You're firing somebody, but this same person can go and get somebody to Photoshop you, and your pictures are going to go out. Are you going to fire everybody? You're not going to. So that shouldn't be a basis on which somebody actually loses their employment, because their nude pictures do not represent the abilities for which they were hired to work. This person is a good photographer, this person is a good musician. That is already a skill that they have. So what does the nude have to do with those skills that they possess? So, and then also civil society organizations need to be serious. When you talk about protection, these are the new trends, We're still so traditional. We think that issues of gender-based violence only have to do with physical violence, rape, defilement, the usual, trafficking and all of this. But there's more to it now. So even as technology advances, the donors and the civil societies need to shift their strategic focus to ICT. What are the emerging forms of violence that have come with internet? They must invest more in terms of research and looking at different laws outside of Uganda that have regulated these kinds of practices. That will help them to push Parliament to pass conducive laws. At the same time, also respond. Especially, most of these women don't want to take action. They don't want to file suits in court after this happens. But if they had our protection as citizens and also civil society and all of these people, I think they will be more encouraged to file.
When you speak about protection, for victims, this comes like with the way the law is right now. I know it's difficult for anyone to go and report, like you said, to go and report about someone trying to extort you for nude images. Like there's a catch-22 there. How do I get some form of justice? Like, is there any law that protects me, as a victim of this? Because I know one of the issues with our laws is that one like cancels out the other one. Like people just like they're not in sync. Is there any law that protects me, from a person who has leaked my images, or from even the anti-pornography committee itself?
Yes, of course, all the laws I mentioned, like I said, protect the victims. They are essentially supposed to protect the victims, much as some of them don't expressly state so. But
so which law, for example, would I evoke to say that?
You can evoke different laws, for example, depending on the act that you're filing for. If it's extortion, under the Penal Code Act, there are very many sections that specifically talk about, blackmail and extortion, because it's a crime in itself, outside of the whole revenge pornography thing. And then in terms of the psychological and emotional violence, the Domestic Violence Act is very extensive and gives a very deep definition about what entails emotional violence. So that could be one of the laws that you charge under. Even the Anti-Pornography Act itself. If, for example, it is invoked in a way that will now be a trial. But charging this person is just charging them in terms of what they are doing right now, even before they leak the nudes. First of all, being in possession of those pictures, and then also with an intention to publish them. Because if you look at the anti-pornography law, it talks about publishing that as well. So they are having this in their possession with an intention of publishing them for sexual pleasure. So that could be already a ground for you. And then if you also look at the Penal Code Act, the different other crimes in terms of extortion and all of this do protect the victim. And that being the case, once you have reported such a case to police and the police actually understands what they're charging this under, they can arrest this person and quickly you can go to trial. Now a trial is where you can draw court's attention to this issue. Because I know instances where even if we don't have a law, the courts can then mandate Parliament to pass an express law in after it has pronounced itself on this matter. And we have very many progressive judges right now who understand what we're talking about. And because there's international law that we have as a country subscribed to that provides for this, even if our domestic laws don't. So in court you invoke those laws because they will still apply here. And courts will be moved to ask Parliament to specifically make a law to regulate A, B, C, D.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so you can use either way, and I think that is one of the ways. If Parliament is not moving on this, even without something happening to somebody, we can petition court about what is happening, and court can be moved to make a pronunciation on that, and then Parliament will have to make an express law. But I think it's something that a conversation that has to start.
Gone to trial.
Yes, because it's isolated.
Yeah.
It's about you and your nudes. Nobody cares.
My nudes, I'm coming after you.
What about the punishment, and how effective the punishment would you advise that the punishment is similar, going to jail, also knowing that the time is changing and the nature of this crime is very different? We are dealing with cyberspace that works totally different from how normal life is operating. So what form of punishment do you think would be very effective to curb this?
I think imprisonment is, for me, the most deterrent way of punishing, because it's deterrent in itself. You know, if you remember the sexual harassment case involving an MP, when they sentenced this gentleman and said he was going to go in for 2 years, the country was, I would say, shook in the in the normal court. Everybody was really, really, really scared because they did not think that for such a thing somebody could actually go to prison, just like they don't think that somebody can go. So you give them the maximum sentence. Under the law, it's 7 years. So if there are certain sentences that are considered deterrent, meaning they're just meant to deter people. So you give those heavy sentences and then heavy fines, very heavy fines. So it's usually with punishments, it's either a fine or
can it be both?
It can be both, yes. Yeah. It can be both. So it can be either a fine or imprisonment or both, depending on the judicial officer's discretion. So we need to make sure that it's deterrent enough for people not to continue to use it as a tool to discriminate against women.
So Mercy, I think this conversation is quite long. There's so much to unpack, yes. Especially in regard to the law.
Yes.
And I think it's a conversation that can continue, that we should continue in our different spaces.
Yes.
But mostly I'm grateful that you're here to
Thank you for
again share with us your knowledge and just be with us, make time to be here with us. So thank you very much.
Thank you too for having me.